Picture this, a small town, the kind where everyone knows their neighbors and the local church is like the heart of the community. Now imagine that peace shattered by, really shocking crime. The pastor's wife found dead in their home.
Oh, wow.
This isn't, a made-up story or anything. This is the true story of Nick and Dawn Hackney and the ripple effects of their deception on this tight-knit Washington community. And that's what we're going to be taking a deep dive into today.
What's so fascinating about this case is that it makes you think about how well you can really know the people around you, like even the people you consider pillars of the community,
Yeah.
It's
We'll be going back to 1997 to Breton, Washington, and we'll uncover the layers of this story, the investigation, the trial, and then like this present appeals process.
And we'll look at the unusual turn of events where Nick Hackney, while serving time for murder, found an unexpected calling.
Okay.
Worm farming.
Worm farming. Yes, you heard that right. We'll explore how this convicted killer is advocating for prison reform and sustainable living. It's December 1997, and the seemingly peaceful town of Breton, Washington, is shaken by the news of Dawn Hackney's death. She's found dead in her home after a fire, and her husband, Nick, the respected pastor of Christ Community Church, is outwardly devastated.
The initial investigation, as you'll see in the sources you provided, kind of missed some key details, partly because of the community's inherent trust in their pastor.
It's understandable, I guess, that people wouldn't immediately suspect him.
Exactly. But certain behaviors of Nick's, like his inappropriate relationships with women in the church, started to raise some red flags.
These relationships, were they widely known within the church at the time?
It seems like they're mostly kept under wraps. The church's culture, you see, played a significant role in allowing this deception to go on for so long. Members were discouraged from questioning leadership or going outside the church for help.
So the structure of the church shielded Nick's actions from scrutiny.
Precisely, this case really highlights the potential for abuse of power within organizations, even those founded on faith and trust.
It's a reminder for all of us to be aware of these dynamics and to question authority, and to support those who speak out against wrongdoing. Let's move on to the trial, 5 years after Dawn's death. Nick is convicted of aggravated murder, and the testimony of Sandy Glass, a church member claiming to have prophetic visions revealing Nick's guilt, played a key role in this conviction.
The prosecution leaned really heavily on Sandy Glass's testimony, presenting her visions as divine revelation.
And that was enough to convince the jury.
Apparently so. The defense tried to discredit her testimony, but ultimately the jury found it compelling enough to convict Nick. But as you mentioned earlier, the story doesn't end there.
And this is where it gets even more complicated. Nick successfully appeals his conviction, arguing that the fire was a cover-up, not part of the murder itself.
His legal team argued that the fire was set after Dawn's death, and they pointed to the lack of soot in her lungs as evidence. And this was actually a key detail that had helped convict him initially.
So he used the very evidence that pointed to his guilt to overturn his conviction.
Yes, and the Washington State Supreme Court surprisingly agreed. They overturned his life sentence. And this opened the door for a reduced sentence and the possibility of parole. I mean, this legal maneuver really sparked outrage and disbelief among those who believed justice had been served.
Yeah.
Dawn's family and a lot of the community felt deeply betrayed by this turn of events.
It's understandable that they would feel that way.
Right.
Like let down by the legal system.
Yeah.
Their trust in the institutions meant to protect them was likely shaken.
Absolutely. And it raises important questions about the complexities of the justice system
Right.
and the potential for loopholes to be exploited.
We'll come back to those questions later. But for now, let's shift our focus to Nick's life in prison. This is where the story takes another unexpected turn. He becomes an advocate for,
Okay.
wait for it, worm farming.
Oh, you're not kidding. Nick establishes a worm composting program in prison,
Wow.
promoting sustainable living and seemingly finding a sense of purpose in this unusual way.
So the convicted murderer turned eco-warrior. It's kind of hard to reconcile those two images.
It certainly challenges our perceptions of redemption and rehabilitation.
Wow.
He even gives a TED Talk,
Really?
sharing his insights on prison reform and the importance of finding meaning even in the most challenging circumstances.
This is where things get really intriguing for me. Is this genuine remorse and a desire to make amends? Or is it a calculated attempt to manipulate public perception and, improve his chances of parole?
It's tough to say for sure. Some might see it as a genuine transformation,
Right.
while others might view it with a lot of cynicism, it's really up to each individual to decide how they interpret his actions.
What's clear is that Nick's actions have had a profound impact on the community, particularly the members of Christ Community Church. What happened to the church after Nick's conviction?
The church, as you can imagine, couldn't withstand the weight of Nick's actions and the betrayal so many felt.
Yeah.
And it eventually dissolved, leaving its former members to grapple with their faith and the trauma of what had happened.
Their entire world must have been turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine having your spiritual leader, someone you trusted and confided in, revealed as a murderer.
It's a devastating blow to one's sense of safety and community, and it raises those really difficult questions about the nature of faith and the potential for blind trust to be exploited.
What about Dawn's family? How have they coped with the loss of their loved one and the subsequent legal battles?
Dawn's family, especially her mother Diana, has shown incredible resilience in the face of unimaginable grief. They've had to navigate not only the pain of losing Dawn, but also the public scrutiny and the emotional toll of the trial and subsequent appeals.
And then to have Nick's sentence reduced, that must have felt like a slap in the face.
Absolutely. For them, it felt like the legal system had failed to deliver true justice for Dawn. But amidst their grief, they've also found solace in their faith and the support of loved ones.
It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to find strength and hope, even in the darkest of times. So where is Nick now? What does the future hold for him?
Nick is currently serving his reduced sentence at the Washington Correction Center in Shelton, Washington, and he's actually eligible for release in 2025.
That's just a few years away. It's hard to believe that the man who was once a respected pastor, convicted of such a horrific crime, could be walking free so soon.
It raises a lot of questions about the nature of rehabilitation and the possibility of redemption, Can someone who's committed such a heinous act truly change? Is forgiveness even possible?
And then there's that added layer of his unexpected activism and his passion for worm farming.
Right. It makes you wonder about his motivations. Is it a genuine sign of remorse and a desire to make amends for his past? Or is it a calculated strategy to present a reformed image and increase his chances of a successful reintegration back into society?
It's a puzzle that only time will truly solve. But one thing's for sure. Nick Hackney's story is a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
Absolutely.
And even those we hold in the highest esteem can harbor really dark secrets.
It also highlights the importance of critical thinking, questioning assumptions, and recognizing the potential for abuse of power in all its forms. We can't afford to be naive or complacent.
This case really leaves us with a lot to ponder.
Yeah.
It's a story about the complexities of human nature, the dark side of faith, and the enduring search for justice and healing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what happens to a community after something like this? Like, can they ever truly recover from such a profound betrayal?
The healing process, I think, is undoubtedly long and complex.
Yeah.
For the former members of Christ Community Church, the loss of their community and the shattering of their trust must have been so incredibly difficult to process.
It's a reminder that the consequences of these kinds of actions go way beyond the immediate victims.
Right.
They ripple outwards and impact, families and friends and entire communities.
Absolutely. And it really underscores the responsibility we all have to be vigilant and look out for one another and create environments where people feel safe speaking up about wrongdoing. But even amidst all the tragedy and betrayal, there were also individuals who showed a lot of courage.
You're right. Think about those who dared to question Nick's behavior.
Yeah.
Those who spoke out despite the pressure to conform and the potential for, backlash. They are the unsung heroes of this story.
Their willingness to stand up for what they believed was right, even when it meant challenging a respected authority figure, is so inspiring. It really shows that even in the face of immense pressure, individual voices can make a difference.
And their actions serve as a really powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in holding our leaders accountable and protecting those who are vulnerable. Silence can be complicit, and speaking truth to power is so essential, no matter how difficult it might seem.
This case leaves us with a lot to think about. It's a story about the complexities of human nature, the dark side of faith, and the enduring search for justice and healing.
It really makes us examine our own beliefs and biases and question the systems that we trust and consider the possibility of both darkness and light, within every human being.
It's a stark reminder that things aren't always what they seem.
Right.
And that even those we hold in high regard can be capable of terrible acts.
This deep dive has been a journey into the heart of a community grappling with betrayal loss and the long road to recovery. And What are your thoughts on Nick Hackney's apparent transformation in prison? Is true redemption possible for someone who has committed such a heinous act? We'd love for you to consider these questions and, continue the conversation.
And if you found this exploration of faith, justice, and the complexities of human experience thought-provoking, please be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into stories that matter. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the world around you.